The forgotten cell asterisk deep inside a ruined space station. Far away from any planet or patrol ship, silence ruled the halls. Only dust floated in the air. And the cold metal walls creaked now and then, like ghosts whispering in the dark. No one came. Here anymore, no one cared what was left behind in one of the deepest chambers, where the power lights had died long ago. A small figure lay curled on the floor. Her body was thin, her skin pale and bruised, and her long white hair clung to her face like cobwebs. She was not dead, not yet, but barely alive. Her name was Kyra, once. She had been a proud fighter, a soldier for her people. Now, she was nothing more than a forgotten prisoner, chained to a wall left in the dark for years her captors had abandoned. The station during the last Great War, they ran when their enemies came, leaving behind anything useless. Kyra was useless to them. Too broken to sell, too weak to work, she did not scream, she did not cry. There was no one to hear, no one to care. Every day, she woke in darkness and slept in silence. Her world was the cold metal floor and the sound of her own breath, but everything changed on that day, the day when new footsteps echoed in the hallway. Kyra opened her eyes slowly, her heart beating faster than it had in years. She crawled into the shadows, her chains rattling softly. She had learned long ago footsteps meant danger. Pain always followed noise, but these steps were different. Heavier, slower, more careful. A small light flickered down the hallway, a flashlight. A human voice spoke, soft and curious. "Anyone here?" Kyra didn't answer. She pressed herself against the wall. Hiding behind a broken crate, her body trembled. Not from fear, but from weakness. The man entered the chamber. Holding the light high, he was tall, with a dusty coat and a scanner in one hand. His name was Daniel, a scavenger, looking for old tech and forgotten treasures. But what he found was something far more valuable. He saw her, just a glimpse size, glowing in the dark. He froze, not sure what he was seeing. "Whoa. I'm not here to hurt you," he said, taking a slow step forward. Kyra growled softly, a broken sound, her voice dry like sand. Daniel held up his hands. "Easy, easy." He pulled a water bottle from his bag and placed it on the floor, then stepped back, giving her space. Kyra stared at the bottle like it was a trap, but her thirst won the fight. With shaking hands, she crawled forward and grabbed it. The water was warm, but to her, it tasted like life. She drank with closed eyes, letting the cool liquid touch her soul. Daniel watched her with careful eyes. He didn't know who she was or what had happened here, but something in him said, "Don't walk away." This wasn't just salvage. This was someone who needed help. "What's your name?" he asked gently. Kyra looked up, her lips parting, trying to speak. But the words didn't come easy. She hadn't spoken in so long. Her voice cracked. Kyra, she whispered. Daniel nodded slowly. "I'm Daniel." Then, silence again. But this time, it wasn't cold. He walked around the chamber, seeing the old chains, the broken walls, the forgotten bed. He saw how she had survived, alone, for so long. His heart ached for her. A stranger from another world. He didn't care what species she was. No one deserved this. "I'll come back tomorrow," he said, "with food, tools, and something to cut these chains." Kyra blinked, unsure if she understood. She had heard many promises in the past, but something in his eyes made her believe just a little. Daniel turned and walked away, his flashlight fading down the hall. Kyra stayed where she was, holding the empty bottle. She didn't know if this was real, but for the first time in years, she felt something in her chest. Hope. The next day came slowly for Kyra. She had not slept, not really. Her mind kept replaying this soft voice, the flashlight beam, and the name Daniel. No one had spoken to her kindly in years, and no one had ever promised to come back. She sat in the cold corner, eyes fixed on the hallway, waiting for footsteps, waiting for hope. But with every hour, her heart grew heavier. Maybe he had left. Maybe it was all a dream. Then, just as she gave up, the sound returned. Footsteps, soft but real. Boots on metal, steady and sure. She pushed herself up, heart racing, chains dragging on the ground. Her breathing was fast, but her body weak. Daniel appeared again, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. He had a large backpack over his shoulder and something metallic in his hand. "Hey," he said, his voice calm and warm. "Told you I'd come back." Kira didn't reply. Not right away. She just stared at him, unsure if she should trust or hide. He stepped forward slowly, placing a wrapped food packet on the floor. "I brought something soft," he said. "Didn't know what you could eat." She crawled toward it carefully, fingers brushing the wrapper. The smell made her stomach twist with hunger. She opened it, ate with small bites, watching him all. The while, Daniel didn't move, just waited. After a while, she asked in a dry whisper, "Why? Help me." Daniel looked surprised, then sad, because someone should have helped you a long time ago. He said. His words were simple, but they struck her heart like fire. He walked to the wall and looked at the thick chains. "These are ancient," he muttered, pulling out a tool from his belt. "I'll need time to cut through this." Kyra didn't answer. She just watched, as if still expecting him to vanish, while he worked. She leaned against the wall and spoke again, slowly. "I was fighter. Before war ended." Daniel paused, listening. "Your people left you here." He asked. Kyra nodded, her voice bitter. "Captured, then forgotten." She lowered her eyes, not strong. "Any more," she added. Daniel tightened his jaw. "That's not true." He kept working, the tool buzzing against the metal. Sparks flew, lighting the room in bursts. Kyra flinched at each sound, but didn't move away. She was still trying to believe this was real. Then, suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the hallway. Daniel froze, switching off his tool and flashlight. Instantly, silence followed, heavy and sharp. He turned to Kyra and whispered, "Stay quiet." More sounds followed, footsteps, metallic and quick. Voices speaking in a language Kyra knew too well. Her heart dropped, her skin turned cold. "Pirates," she whispered. "They came back." Daniel looked at her. "Friends of yours?" She shook her head quickly, fear in her eyes. "They used me. Hurt me. Left me." Daniel clenched his fists. "Then we're not letting them find you." He looked around, spotting a narrow gap in the wall. "Can you crawl?" he asked. Kyra hesitated, then nodded. Daniel grabbed a blanket from his pack, wrapped it around her shoulders. He helped her crawl into the space, hiding her behind pipes and rusted wires. "Don't move until I come back," he said. Kyra grabbed his hand, her fingers cold and shaking. "You? Come back." Daniel looked straight into her eyes. "I promise," he whispered. Then he disappeared into the hallway, leaving Kyra in the dark once more. Minutes passed like hours. The sounds outside grew louder, boots, laughter, doors opening and slamming. She heard someone walk right past her hiding place. She held her breath, body frozen. A hand reached out near her. She almost screamed. But it was just a rat, crawling away into the shadows. Kyra closed her eyes, whispering a quiet prayer in her language, not for safety, but for Daniel's return. In her broken world, people didn't come back. They always left. But something about that human's voice, his eyes, his calm way of talking, it made her want to believe again. She sat in silence, holding on to that single word he had spoken before walking away: promise. The metal hallway outside Kyra's hiding spot was alive with noise. Boots stomped, voices shouted, and the sound of crates being dragged echoed like thunder. She stayed still, chest rising and falling fast. Every breath a battle her body wanted to run, but she had nowhere to go. Minutes passed, or maybe hours, she couldn't tell. Her muscles were tight, her fingers dug into the cold pipes. Then she heard it, something soft, something familiar, a voice, whispering through the crack in the wall. "Kyra, it's me," Daniel whispered, just loud enough. She moved, barely, her eyes catching his shadow in the dim light. "I waited," she whispered back, her voice thin. Daniel smiled weakly. "I knew you would." He helped her crawl out, but something was wrong. Blood ran down the side of his head and his sleeve was torn. "You hurt," she said, touching the side of his temple. "Ran into one of them," he muttered. "Didn't?" "Like my face." Still, he smiled, like pain didn't matter. Kyra looked at him, unsure how someone could joke at a time like this. "Why come back?" she asked again, her voice softer than before. Daniel looked at her with tired eyes. "Because no one should be left behind." He pulled a small device from his bag, an old map of the station. "Emergency pods," he said, pointing to a blinking dot. "Still one left." Kyra shook her head slowly. "Too far." "I cannot walk." Daniel didn't reply, just pulled something else out of his bag. A foldable harness, part medical, part military. "I'll carry you," he said, like it was the most normal thing in the world. Her eyes widened. "Why?" "Because I don't leave people in cages," he said firmly. Kyra felt something warm in her chest, confusion, gratitude, fear, all at once. She let him strap the harness gently around her, his hands careful, respectful, not like the ones that had hurt her in the past when she was secure on his back. Daniel rose slowly. Her weight made him grunt, but he didn't stop. They moved through dark tunnels. Guided by the flickering map, every step was slow, every hallway filled with tension. Kyra whispered directions when he took a wrong turn. She remembered parts of the station, the vents, the broken doors, the safe paths, together. They were more than one person alone, but the danger wasn't behind them anymore, it was waiting ahead. They reached a narrow hallway, blocked halfway by fallen pipes. Daniel tried to push through, but the noise was too loud from around the corner. Voices shouted, footsteps racing toward them. Kyra gasped. "They come." Daniel turned, eyes scanning fast. To the left, a side door, emergency maintenance access. He kicked it open and slipped inside, closing it behind them just in time. They crouched in silence. Kyra pressed close to his back, both breathing hard. The voices passed, the danger missed them, but now the hallway to the pod was crawling with pirates. "We need another way," Daniel said. Checking the map again, Kyra pointed at a broken shaft above. "That leads." Near the pods, Daniel looked up, then sighed. "Of course it does," he muttered. "Always the hard way." He climbed slowly, pulling her weight along. She held tightly to him, whispering, "You don't have to do this." "Yes," he replied, "I do." The shaft was narrow, the air stale. They climbed for minutes, their bodies tired, their breaths loud in the silence. Then, just before the exit, they heard another sound. Footsteps above them this time. Waiting. Kyra reached into her belt, pulling a small metal shard she had hidden long ago. "A weapon?" Daniel asked. "Not much," she replied. "But better than nothing." He nodded. "We use what we have." They pushed open the exit slowly, entering a control chamber. One pirate was there, tall and armored, turning just in time to see them. Kyra didn't wait. She threw the shard, hitting his hand. Daniel tackled him next, knocking the pirate into the wall. A quick struggle, loud and fast, then silence. Broken only by Daniel's heavy breath, he looked at Kyra. "Remind me never to fight you." She gave a faint smile, the first real one since they met. Together, they limped toward the final door. The pod was just beyond it, humming with weak power. But they knew it wasn't over yet. There was still one last battle waiting outside. That door, and Kyra, once forgotten, now felt ready to face it with him. Asterisk, the emergency pod was right in front of them. Just one door, one breath, one choice away, but Kyra didn't move. Her body trembled, not from fear, but from something. Deeper memories flooded her mind: screams, pain, chains, and silence. This room looked clean, but her soul remembered. This was where the pirates dragged her years ago. Before they threw her into the dark cell and forgot she existed, Daniel touched her shoulder gently. "We're almost there," he said softly. "But—" Kyra stood frozen, eyes locked on the metal walls around them. "I was here," she whispered. "This place took everything." Daniel looked around slowly, sensing what she meant. "This time, you leave on your feet," he said. "Not in chains." Kyra looked at him, her eyes glowing dimly in the low light. "Not yet," she said. "There." Still here, footsteps echoed down the hall, again louder this time. Voices barking orders, pirates returning to check the pod room. Daniel pulled his tool from his belt, but Kyra stepped forward. "No," she said, her voice stronger now. "Let me." Daniel blinked, surprised. "You sure?" Kyra nodded once, slow and calm. "For too long, I hid," she said. "I won't anymore." She walked toward the hallway, every step steadier than the last. Kay back straight, her head high. The fire in her eyes was no longer fear. Was fury. Not wild, not uncontrolled, but burning, focused, sharp. 3 pirates appeared around the corner. Blasters in hand, they laughed at the sight of her, small and unarmed. "Well, well." One of them grinned. "Look what crawled out of the trash." Kyra didn't speak. She raised her hand and flicked her fingers. The air shimmered, just 4. A second, a pulse of blue light burst from her palm. The nearest pirate's weapon exploded in his grip. He screamed, falling back, his arms smoking. The others raised their weapons, but Kyra moved faster. She leaped forward. Sliding under one's aim and striking his knee, he fell hard, and before he could scream, she struck his throat with her elbow. Daniel watched from behind, his mouth open in shock. He had known she was strong, but this was something else. This was a warrior. This was who she used to be, and maybe who she still was. The last pirate ran, shouting for help. Kyra turned to Daniel, breathing hard. "They'll all come now," she said. "Then we leave fast." Daniel replied, "Pod's ready," but Kyra didn't move yet. She walked to the fallen pirates and took one of their belts from it. She pulled a metal badge, her old military symbol. "They kept it," she whispered, "like a trophy." She clipped it onto her torn suit. Daniel smiled. "Looks better on you, Kyra." Gave him a look part proud, part sad. "I was scared," she said, "for so long. I forgot I could fight." "You remembered," Daniel said, "right when it mattered." The pod door opened with a hiss, light spilling into the room. Kyra stepped inside first. Her head held high, Daniel followed, pressing the launch sequence. As the pod detached, alarms began to blare across the station. The pirates had found the bodies, and soon they'd notice the missing ship, but it was too late. Kyra and Daniel were gone. Inside the pod, it was quiet, too quiet. Kyra leaned back in the seat. Eyes closed, her hands shook a little. Not from fear, but from release. After all, these years she had taken back her power. Daniel sat beside her, a cut still bleeding on his arm. Kyra opened her eyes and reached for him, without a word. She pressed her fingers gently against the wound. A soft blue glow spread across his skin. Sealing the cut, Daniel blinked. "You can heal." Kyra nodded. "Only small wounds." He chuckled. "Good enough for me." Then he added, "Thanks." Kyra looked at him, her voice soft now. "I'm not what I was," she said. "Not yet." Daniel looked at her with quiet respect. "But you're not broken anymore," he said. You're rising. Kyra looked out the pod window, a ruined station shrinking behind them. Her reflection stared back, scarred, tired, but no longer empty. She whispered something only she could. Here, I am not forgotten. The pod drifted quietly through space behind them. The broken station was nothing more than a shadow. Its lights flickered in the dark. Like a dying memory, Kyra stared at it through the small window. Saying nothing, Daniel sat across from her. Wrapping a bandage around his arm, he watched her in silence, giving her space. There was something different about her, now something stronger. Her eyes were still tired, but no longer hollow. Do you want to talk about it? He asked softly. Kyra didn't move at first. Then she said, I remember everything. Her voice didn't shake this time. It was clear. She told him about the battle. How she had led her squad through the chaos. How they were captured after the surrender. How the pirates traded soldiers like coins. They kept me because I was rare. She said, strong, smart, but not strong enough. Her fists clenched slowly. I begged for help. Cried in the dark. But no one came. Daniel lowered his eyes. Until now. Kyra nodded. Until now. Silence filled the pod again. But it wasn't cold. It was the silence of healing, of shared pain and new understanding. After a while, Daniel reached into his pack and handed her something. A small mirror cracked at the corner. She looked at her reflection scars. White hair, glowing eyes, but she didn't look away this time. She touched her face gently, like meeting herself again. This is who I am, she whispered. Daniel nodded. And you're still standing? Kyra gave a small smile, faint, but real for now, she said. But I want more than standing. She turned to him with new fire in her eyes. I want to fight again. To help others like me, Daniel grinned. Then let's get you strong first. He opened a case beside the Sita medkit, food packs, tools. Over the next hours, they worked in silence. He cleaned her wounds, fixed her armor, helped her stretch her stiff limbs. She accepted it without shame. This was not pity. It was care. The kind she hadn't known since before the war. As her strength returned, so did her voice. She laughed for the first time, a small sound, but Daniel smiled wide. You laugh like someone who hasn't laughed in years, he said. I haven't. Kyra replied, laughter feels strange. They shared food, cold but filling. Daniel told her about Earth, his old life as a repairman turned scavenger. He spoke about the time he got lost in a mine for 3 days. How did you survive? Kyra asked, curious. I didn't give up. He said, same way you didn't. Kyra looked at him, really looked. You could have taken what you wanted and left. She said. Daniel shrugged. That's not who I am. A warning light blinked above them, breaking the quiet moment. Daniel tapped the panel. We're getting close to the drop zone. Kyra sat up straighter. Where are we going? A neutral colony, he answered. Place called Havenine. She raised an eyebrow. Safe. As safe as space gets, he said. No slavers, no pirates, no war. Kyra's lips pressed together, unsure if she believed in places like that. But she didn't argue. As the pod began its descent, the engine hummed louder through the small window. They could see light soft yellow scattered across green hills, a peaceful planet. Unlike the cold steel prisons she had known, Kyra leaned closer, watching with cautious wonder. I'll help you settle, Daniel said. Find shelter, medical support, maybe even a new name. Kyra shook her head. No new name. Daniel looked confused. Why not? Because I'm still Kyra, she said firmly. I earned that name back. He nodded slowly, a smile touching his lips. Then Kyra, it is. The pod landed with a soft jolt, steam hissing from the base. Daniel opened the hatch, stepping out into the cool breeze. Kyra followed, stepping onto real soil for the first time in years. She paused, feeling the wind touch her face. No metal walls, no prison air, just open sky and soft ground. For a moment, she closed her eyes and breathed. Deep. I don't feel broken anymore, she said. Daniel looked at her with pride. You're not, he said. You're rising again. The air on Haven 9 was different. It didn't smell like rust, blood, or smoke. It smelled clean. Like rain on warm stone. Like life. Kyra stood just outside the pod, her feet in soft grass, eyes scanning the horizon. Wind brushed through her hair, and she flinched slightly. It had been so long since anything touched her gently. Daniel stood nearby, speaking to the colony guards. They didn't point guns, they didn't shout, they listened. Kyra didn't trust it yet. Peace was not something she believed in. Not after chains and silence. But Daniel, he did, and somehow she trusted that. A young medic came forward, offering her a coat. Kyra took it slowly, her fingers still unsure. Are you injured? The medic asked, her voice kind. Kyra shook her head. Not anymore. They were taken to a recovery shelter, clean, bright, full of sunlight. Daniel showed her how the door locks worked. No codes, no force fields. Here, he said. No. One locks you in. She nodded, but kept the door slightly open, just in case. Days passed, each one strange. Kyra learned to walk again without chains. She helped in the garden, fixed solar panels, and cleaned dishes with quiet focus. Every task felt like a test. Was she still a person? Could she live outside a cage? Daniel checked on her every morning. Sometimes they shared breakfast, sometimes silence. He never pushed, never asked her to be more than she could be that day. But every time he looked at her, he saw something powerful coming back. One night, a loud knock echoed through the shelter. Kyra tensed, instincts sharp. Daniel opened the door to find a group of colonists. Frightened, there's a ship, one of them said. It crash-landed just beyond the ridge. Kyra stood up, her eyes alert. Any survivors? We don't know, the woman replied. Scanners show faint signals. Daniel grabbed his bag and turned to Kyra, up for a walk. He asked. Kyra nodded. Let's go. They walked through the forest, branches crunching underfoot. The crash site was still smoking, twisted metal glowing red in the moonlight. Kyra moved ahead, her eyes scanning fast. Then she saw its small bodies hiding near the wreckage. Children, alien children. No older than 10. Kyra dropped to one knee, arms wide. The children hissed, shaking with fear. We're not here to hurt you, she whispered, her voice soft. One of the children stepped forward. Wide-eyed, you're like us, he said. You have chains on your soul. Kyra's breath caught. She knew exactly what that meant. She took off her coat, revealing the scars on her arms. The child looked and nodded, understanding in his eyes. Kyra reached out her hand, and for the first time, someone reached back without flinching. She lifted him gently, held him close. Daniel stared in awe. You were meant for more than war, he said. The colonists built a small shelter for the crash survivors Kyra visited every day. She told stories, brought food, listened when they cried. They called her Light Walker, one who walks from the shadows. One evening, Daniel sat beside her on a bench. The stars above shimmered like diamonds, you know, he said. You're not just healing. Kyra turned to him. Then what am I doing? You're healing others, he replied. You're the spark now. Kyra looked down at her hands, once weapons, now open and warm. She didn't know how to reply, but something in her heart felt whole. Later that night, as she returned to her room, she paused at the mirror. The scars were still there. The pain hadn't vanished. But her eyes, they no longer looked empty. She whispered to herself, I survived the cage. I survived the silence. And now, I light the path. Morning light spilled across the hills of Haven 9. The sky was soft gold. The breeze, gentle like a mother's breath. Kyra stood on a small ridge, her eyes fixed on the rising sun. For the first time in years, she wasn't hiding in the shadows below. The colony was waking up. Children laughed near the water tanks. Engineers tightened solar panels. The smell of warm bread drifted from the kitchens, and in the middle of it all stood a girl who once believed she would die in chains. Kyra closed her eyes. Letting the wind touch her face, she remembered the cold silence of her prison, the taste of stale air, the weight of rusted chains. And then she remembered Daniel. He was walking toward her now, same dusty jacket, same kind smile. Didn't sleep again? He asked gently. Kyra shrugged. Sleep comes in pieces. Daniel nodded. Still better than nightmares, they sat on the grass together. Side by side, Daniel handed her a small device. What's this? She asked. Something you earned. He replied. She pressed the button and a screen lit up her ID file. Her real name, her rank from the war, her species listed correctly. She stared at it, hands shaking. They remembered me. Daniel smiled. I pulled some strings, dug through military archives. Why? She whispered. He looked her in the eyes. Because you deserve to be more than a number. Tears touched the corners of her eyes, but she didn't look away. For so long she had been forgotten, erased. Now her name was written again, Kyra of the Ilarian Guard. Alive, seen, remembered. She stood up slowly, holding the device to her chest. There are others still out there, she said. Others. Like me, Daniel nodded. That's why we're building something new. He pointed to a half-finished structure at the edge of the colony. A center for war survivors, lost travelers, and rescued slaves. A safe place, he said. And you're going to help run it? Kyra blinked, stunned. Me? Who better? He replied. You know their pain. You speak their fear. Kyra looked toward the building, then back at him. And you? She asked. What will you do? Kay grinned. I'll be your assistant, maybe clean floors, fix walls, keep you fed. She laughed softly, the sound real and full. I'd like that, she said. They walked down the ridge together, side by side. People greeted Kyra as they passed, not with pity, but with respect. The children from the crashed ship ran up to her. One hugged her leg, another handed her a wildflower. Thank you. Lightwalker, they said. Kyra knelt down. No more hiding now. She whispered. You are free. Later. Inside the new building, she helped paint the walls. Simple colors, soft lights, pillows for rest. This wasn't a shelter made from fear, it was made for healing. Kyra placed a symbol on the wall. Carved carefully, it was the same badge from her old armor, but now it meant something new, not war. Not rank. It meant survival, memory, and rising again. Daniel stood behind her, arms crossed. Proud smile on his face. You sure about the name? He asked, pointing to the carved letters above the door. She nodded. The rising room. It read, Let them come broken. Kyra whispered. We'll help them stand as the sun set, casting golden light across the colony. Kyra sat on the steps, watching the stars appear above. Daniel joined her, handing her a warm drink. What are you thinking? He asked. She took a slow sip, then answered, I was once broken. She said, forgotten. Lost. He waited, knowing more would come. But a human walked into my darkness, she said, and pulled me out. Daniel looked at her. I didn't save you, Kyra. She smiled gently. No, she agreed. You reminded me how to save myself. They sat in silence, the stars blinking like old friends. And somewhere far beyond that sky, others like her waited in chains. But here on Haven 9, a spark had been lit, and Kyra would carry it forward for them, for him, and for who she had become. A warrior reborn, a protector of the forgotten, a light in the dark, and finally, free.